the Western world has been shaken by the news of the plan made by Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia regarding an Islamic NATO. Many believe that one of the 10 reasons behind America's sudden attack on Iran was to prevent this Islamic NATO from taking shape. Recently, the concept of an Islamic NATO has created a significant resonance and excitement within the Muslim Ummah. However, before understanding the Islamic NATO, we need to understand the concept of NATO itself. After World War II, primarily the United States and European nations formed a treaty among 12 countries to protect themselves from the aggression of Soviet communism. Initially, it was called the Washington Treaty. Those 12 countries and that treaty eventually evolved into NATO, which stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. From those 12 countries, it has grown to 32 member states today. Among these 32 countries, there are at least 2 Muslim nations, Turkey and Albania. The specialty of NATO is that if you attempt to attack any one of these 32 countries, the remaining 31 countries will unite to fight against the aggressor. This agreement is established through Article 5 of the treaty. By virtue of this treaty, NATO countries can create councils among themselves and maintain their own military forces for NATO through their own funding. Just as the United Nations has the UN peacekeepers, NATO can similarly maintain its own NATO army. This is exactly why people generally do not want to pick a fight with a NATO country. Now the interesting question is, since these countries united, has there ever been an instance where a NATO country was attacked and the others joined to defend it? And yes, it happened during 9/11. When the USA was attacked, NATO was activated against the claim of this attack on the US. The global counter-terrorism efforts that followed were carried out country after country through the NATO alliance. Now let's talk about the OIC. The OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, is an organization of 57 Islamic countries. Why was it created? It was basically formed in 1969 following an incident at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. An Australian Christian set fire to the Al-Aqsa Mosque using kerosene, causing extensive damage. In protest of that damage, and as a consequence of that event, Islamic countries created this organization named OIC. However, it is primarily a cultural and diplomatic organization. Aside from occasionally passing resolutions of condemnation, they don't really have much else to do. If we had such an Islamic NATO, the advantage would be that with our own Islamic NATO force, Israel could not have carried out this destruction in Gaza today. India could not have carried out this massacre of Muslims in Kashmir. The atrocities against Rohingyas in Myanmar would not have happened. Even diplomatically, we could have protected our Muslim brothers, the Uyghurs, in China. Many dream that this concept will one day become a reality, but the reality is that it is very difficult. Many wonder if the OIC can be converted into something like NATO. This isn't possible because the OIC lacks something like NATO's Article 5. Therefore, it's not possible for the OIC. An absolutely new organization must be created, perhaps named Islamic NATO. Even if that is done, there are many obstacles. To the east, we have Indonesia, and to the west, the last Muslim country is Morocco in Africa. Between Indonesia and Morocco, you have Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, then Iran, Afghanistan, and into the Middle East. Then moving into Africa, you see Libya, Algeria, Ethiopia, and finally Morocco. Everyone within this belt is Muslim, but culturally, historically, and ethnically, they are entirely different. Due to these diversities, you see that Muslims cannot always stand united. Even in the Middle East, during the wars against Israel, the Arab world fought 3 times and was defeated all 3 times. Again, when Iran fought, you saw Iran fighting alone. On the other hand, Turkey once ruled all the way to Mecca and Medina under the Ottoman Empire, but now, Turkey is in a state of half European, half Asian. Look at the states. Some like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE are monarchies with kings and emirs. Iran and Iraq have presidential systems. Pakistan and Bangladesh have democracies. Malaysia and Indonesia are different, and Libya and Morocco have their own systems. This means the systems of governance are not uniform. They are diverse, leading to various internal political tensions. Whether an Islamic NATO is possible by overcoming these tensions is a big question. However, as many of you know, an initiative was taken last year in 2025. This initiative involves Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia. The core objective is that Saudi Arabia will provide the funding from its oil revenue. Turkey will provide technological support because their military technology is highly advanced. In fact, they have the 9th strongest army in Europe. And the nuclear capability support will come from Pakistan, as it is the only country among the 57 Muslim nations with nuclear weapons. These 3 countries have already tried to establish the initial concept of an Islamic NATO, imitating NATO's original Article 5, to begin discussions on such a system. Once established, the other 57 Islamic countries might join one by one. However, there are conflicts here too. Turkey is already in NATO. Whether Turkey will also remain in an Islamic NATO is a matter where concrete decisions haven't been made yet. The interesting thing is that the plan by Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia has terrified the West. Many believe the sudden U.S. attack on Iran was partly to ensure this Islamic NATO doesn't take root. If you look at who detonated nuclear bombs in this world, it was the American Christians. But you won't find Muslims at fault for any major genocide or world war. Whether you talk about the Nanjing Massacre, the Manila Massacre, World War I, World War II, or the Holocaust, or even the nuclear explosions, Muslims have always been the victims in the world's most brutal events. They were never the cause. Despite this, a long history of crusades existed between Christians and Muslims, a total of 8 crusades. There have also been wars among Muslims themselves, like the Iran-Iraq War. Even now, Afghanistan and Pakistan, 2 Muslim countries, have conflicts. If we could create an Islamic NATO, we could reduce this internal violence and hostility. Through a collective fund in an Islamic NATO, we could achieve great technological advancements, especially in weaponry. Everyone hopes that Islamic NATO will one day see the light of day. They certainly do not want Muslims to unite. Nevertheless, with the hope that this effort succeeds, and keeping that dream in our hearts,